You're listening to Comic Reflections, episode 292. I'm your host, Nicholas Prom.
And I'm Jeff, the Blob Barnhart.
Comic Reflections is brought to you by The Outhouse. You can find our show and other nifty content at theouthousers.com. And if you enjoy this program, please subscribe to us on either iTunes or Stitcher. Jeff, before we get started today talking about Marvel's merry band of misunderstood mutants, I want to remind listeners about the contest that we're running right now.
Mm-hmm.
All you need to do is leave us an iTunes review and then drop me an email at comic.reflections@gmail.com to be eligible to win 2 Wolverine motion comic DVDs, including Wolverine Origin and Wolverine versus Sabretooth, as well as a big pile of large comic shop promo posters, mostly Marvel Comics, and also some independent comics that we received as a donation to the show. And I will announce the winner probably the end of June on episode 300 of this podcast. Enter now for your chance to win.
All right.
So
I want to enter too. I can't, can I?
No.
Oh,
sorry.
Bummer.
Yeah, but it's going to be a great prize and hopefully a lot of fun. But today we're going to talk about a couple of issues of Silver Age X-Men's comics. We're reading from a reprint book from the early 80s, Amazing Adventures, starting with Amazing Adventures number 13, which is cover dated December of 1980. It's a nice cover art by Jack Kirby and Chick Stone.
Yeah, it's cool picture. We're seeing the Blob fighting against the X-Men and the Evil Mutants. Is that what they're called?
The Brotherhood of Evil Mutants, yes.
Wow.
Are looking on.
Yeah.
I love the composition of this cover.
Mm-hmm.
It's really terrific. But yes, the story in this issue is The Return of the Blob, and it's a reprint from the X-Men number 7 from way back in September of 1964.
Yeah, it's the surprise of the year, it says on the cover, and the new leader. All right, if I started reading the X-Men, I would have chosen Cyclops to be the leader.
Yeah.
Or Hank. I think Hank is my favorite X-Men of this period.
Yes. We'll get into that a little more. The only reason I mentioned that this is a reprint and not the original 1960s issue is we tend to make reference to the advertisements in the comics, and just so there's no confusion, that's why. But yes, the Return of the Blob, written by Stan Lee, penciled by Jack Kirby, and inked by Chick Stone. And we have a very busy splash page here.
Yeah, it's so busy I missed that it's a picture of the graduating class, but within the camera. You're looking in the camera lens.
Oh yeah, I didn't even notice that.
Yeah,
it looks like it's so such a close up look through the camera lens. It looks like a bank vault opening.
Yeah, and there's a little picture of the Blob and Magneto being really mad.
Just an inset, floating head of Magneto.
I guess he's mad he's not in the picture. I don't know, but he's infuriated.
Well, I love Magneto in the 1960s especially because he's at the height of his... If he had a mustache, he'd be twirling it. Mm-hmm. He is like the epitome of a stereotypical supervillain, and he's great. Yeah. This is the Magneto that I love.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, it's graduation day for the X-Men. It's only the 7th issue of the series.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
And we ought to have a return of, the Blob.
Oh, well, get this. Not only is the Return of the Blob, who debuted in issue 3 of the X-Men, but I looked it up. Like, the early issues of this series are extremely formulaic. And I don't mind the formula, but 7 of the first 11 issues are some permutation of the X-Men fighting Magneto and either the Brotherhood of Mutants or some of them. Mm-hmm. 7 of the first 11 issues.
Yeah, you'd have to think of a new mutant because I'm glad they're not fighting bank robbers. I've always
Right,
I'm
but I mean,
not a huge fan of Superman fighting bank robbers. It's sort of
right, but how many Saturday morning cartoons have you seen where they fight the same bad guy every episode? A lot.
yeah.
And that's kind of the formula here.
Hmm.
They don't have, I mean, they have a rogues gallery, but it's this same handful of guys that they're fighting practically every issue.
Yeah. That can
Um,
get old.
it can, but I do love this period on the book. It's
Mm.
really fun.
Yeah.
It works even though it shouldn't.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but also, I mean, the X-Men were kind of in the '60s. The also ran book, as
mhm.
in, this was like the lowest selling of Marvel's superhero comics. It was kind of the like, well, if you had an extra 12 cents, okay, I'll pick up the X-Men too. Uh,
Yeah, it's
they
amazing because
weren't
there was.
popular, and they did get canceled and became a reprint book.
Hmm.
In the late '60s and early '70s.
And in the 80s, they were the most popular thing in at Marvel, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
Hmm.
their mid '70s revival, which we'll discuss next week, um, was huge. I mean, people they had fans, but they were hardcore comic people, and then they became the most popular group in comics.
Yeah.
So, but I love this period. It's really fun. It's graduation day for the
Hmm.
X-Men.
Yeah, and they were in those mortar boards, which is the most useless headgear in history, except for millennial fedoras. But
Ugh, yuck.
I mean, if it's a fedora, you better have a brim on it, not that an inch brim. I hate that. Oh.
Okay.
But that's yeah, it's kind of cool. I like the idea that they're graduating. Just kind of cool. They're not in school all for they're not Archie and Jughead in high school for 80 years,
Right, right.
and that's that's pretty cool. Oh, they get blank diplomas just like college students do today. But because he doesn't want to leave a paper trail, which is interesting.
Well, yeah, because the X-Men I mean, technically are an outlaw group.
Hmm. Yeah.
Um, but
And
and because of the anti-mutant sentiment that exists and is growing, he doesn't want to put targets on their heads.
yeah.
You know,
And yeah, and he says, we're going to choose a group leader. Gee, who could it be? And
right?
it's, um, all right, we go.
Professor X is going to take a sabbatical. They're on
Right.
vacation.
Hmm.
He's going to go away, and they're going to continue their superheroing career based out of the X Mansion. But yeah,
Yeah. All right, we come to an abandoned a mansion, which which is one of the favorite places for evildoers to go. You got your abandoned warehouses, abandoned amusement parks, abandoned presidential libraries. It's I don't know. I think it'd be cool if they just went into an abandoned treehouse. No one would look for Magneto in a
and
treehouse.
the honeycomb hideout.
Yeah, that'd be great. All right, so we have the beautiful but haughty Scarlet Witch and Mastermind, which is the sleaziest of the evil mutants.
He is a sleazeball. He's such a creep.
Yeah,
Um,
Scarlet Witch and her brother Quicksilver
Quicksilver.
are noble. They're noble. Let's say they're lawful evil according to Dungeons and Dragons
Right.
terminology. But they have honor and all this
All
stuff.
right, and
But
they went on to leave the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants and join the Avengers.
yeah.
But they're only part of this group because Magneto saved their lives.
Yeah.
They really aren't evil.
Mhm.
But Mastermind and the Toad and Magneto certainly are.
Yeah. So Mastermind puts the moves on Scarlet Witch.
And she's just repulsed by him. And he has the power to create very realistic illusions,
Hmm.
but she knows that it holds no appeal to her because she knows it's fake.
Yeah, I mean that's I think it'd be a useful thing.
Yeah, well,
but
and
to
he's a
have.
creepazoid.
Yeah.
He has that Mr. Hyde kind of like off the shoulder cape.
And that pencil thin mustache is always evil.
Yeah.
Unless it's on John Waters.
Or Vincent
Then it's
Price.
Oh, yes.
And
Well, Vincent Price was
he played a
evil.
lot of heavies, yeah.
Yeah.
I will say this, John Waters. I think he's a fascinating guy, and I like him a lot. Oh, his films are so repulsive.
Well, there's earlier ones.
Ugh, like Yeah,
You know,
yeah. I
um,
actually did like Serial Mom. That was one from the 90s.
yeah, and yeah, his later stuff is kind of family friendly, but the other ones are just
It was
they're
early.
bad movies, but they're gloriously bad. And
Yeah, but I
uh,
mean, you know, Desperate Living and Pink Flamingos and stuff like that is just vile. I'm just grossed out by those.
yeah,
They're
he's a
just
good writer.
yeah, but they're
John Waters' book is a good read.
sure. Oh, and he's a neat guy. I'll watch an interview with him any day of the week. But I think those movies are just trashy. And I know that's the point, but
And plus, he had about $5 in his pocket to make them.
sure.
Um, yeah,
He's like an Ed Wood that knew how to make films, though.
a self-aware Ed Wood.
Yeah,
And
Ed Wood thought he was making good movies.
right.
And John Waters makes good movies that are just, ugh,
Hmm.
gross.
Yeah. Hmm.
But yes.
All right. So, Mastermind is getting grabby with Scarlet Witch, and
And talking crap about Magneto.
yeah, that's not a good idea because
No.
Magneto comes by and he uses mental powers of
Mental powers. Magnetic powers.
it's mentally magnetic, I guess.
Okay.
And he's about to use fisticuffs on Mastermind.
Yeah, he
which
slams him against the wall. He doesn't just rely on his superpower, which is great.
No,
Yeah.
and Quicksilver and Toad comes in. The Toad is the most pathetic supervillain ever.
Yeah.
He is just pathetic.
Yeah. I mean, his power of leaping around and stuff, he's very agile and stuff.
That's very useful,
But yeah, I mean, like, he's a toady. I mean,
Yeah.
his name and everything about him is so on the nose.
and he's just whimpering, "Oh, I can,
He
oh,
rubs,
Master,
he's
you're
like
so great."
he kind of hunches over and kind of wrings his hands like
Yeah.
Cornelius in Planet of the
Yeah,
Apes.
and he's wearing this medieval outfit. Just nah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's just not. Yeah, but he has his uses, I guess. But
Yeah.
it shows you what kind of man Magneto is that he lets Mastermind and Toad hang around. You know, and that's kind of you're judged by the company you keep, and
Right.
he sticks with those guys.
Right.
I would have.
His
No.
minions are kind of pathetic.
Except for
The
well, his allies, Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch, are not pathetic, but they're not sympathetic to him. So
Right. They go along with Magneto because they feel they owe him. But they're the ones who have the real power in the group besides him. And
Yeah.
they're just kind of pawns of Magneto, while these other people who, well, Mastermind's not very loyal, but yeah, you get where I'm going with this.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we cut back to the X Mansion. Professor X is having a conversation with Cyclops, Scott Slim Summers.
and and they shows him the first time we ever see Cerebro, and it
It's
is
all-
glorious.
Yeah, I mean,
Oh,
Jack Kirby, he's at the height of his powers, really.
I wish that they had shown this in the movie instead of what they did. I think that would have been a lot cooler.
Right. I mean, the movie looked okay, but it looked very sterile, you know.
I've seen it before. I've not seen this before in the movie.
Yeah, this is amazing.
Hmm. And it's also just one little bit. That could have been a whole full page, you know.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You know, if a machine like that if Kirby had been drawing it in the Fantastic Four, which was the flagship title at Marvel at the time, it would have been a full page.
Yeah.
Um, Can you imagine? Like, when you think about it, this is a throwaway idea from Kirby.
Yeah.
His X-Men was not the top tier book at all.
Mm-hmm.
He used his best stuff in Fantastic Four and Thor.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but yeah.
Yeah. Well, so Professor X shows Scott Cerebro, and then
Cerebro is a machine that will detect and locate other mutants.
right.
And the whole point of it is so that they can seek them out and try to get them to ally with the X-Men, and so then help them control their powers and not be seduced and brought in by Magneto, the evil guy.
Yeah. So then he says, Professor X tells Scott, "Hey, you're the leader of the X-Men now," and Scott really doesn't want to, but oh well.
Yeah. Even Scott thinks that Hank McCoy, the Beast, would make a better leader.
Mm-hmm.
Or the Angel, which that's an interesting choice.
Yeah,
I like the Angel.
I like them all. I like the Beast best, but
Yeah. In the 1970s, the Angel led a superhero team in Los Angeles, the Champions.
hmm
Um,
yeah. But most people don't like Scott.
well, I like Scott up to a point. And
hmm
then after a while, it's like you're keeping this character around whose arc has already, had its bell curve.
hmm
And um,
Yeah.
in any great work of fiction, say a novel,
hmm
a character will, you know,
Have a story arc
have a
and
story arc, and it
learn.
will end. Um, there was a time when from a narrative perspective, it made sense for Scott to leave the X-Men and leave superheroing behind and stay
hmm
there. But
hmm
of course, because
Comic book reasons.
comic book reasons, because comic books, at least in Marvel or DC, the story never ends unless a
hmm
character dies and becomes comic book dead.
Yeah.
Sometimes they come back. Often they do. Um, you don't get to have that closure. Superhero comics are perpetually stuck in the second act of a story.
Yeah. I know. Maybe best to kill them all off at one time and kill them off.
Forever.
Yeah, in real life ever. Um, then you can start fresh with new ones. But I don't think they can do that because I don't think a lot of people like reading about Superman or X Men,
Well,
and
right.
and if they're gone, they don't
Yeah.
really want to start with a new one.
Right. Well, and
Um,
the problem is Marvel and DC comics, their characters are intellectual properties that they get all these that merchandise things
hmm
or get sold into movies and stuff, and they want to keep those characters in publication in perpetuity. And so they might die, but they're going to come back.
hmm
They might leave or quit or whatever, but they're
hmm
going to come back. So nobody ever gets to have a real happy ending. Nobody gets to have real closure. Whatever their arc never completes, and so um, many characters I think just stay on this plateau.
hmm
And there's a point in most superhero properties where I'm say this is my own end and where I'm going to stop.
Yeah,
Does that make sense?
yeah.
Um,
I think
well,
Superman should have ended, and whatever happened to the Man of Tomorrow.
yeah. Well, it was the end. It was the end of the pre-crisis continuity.
Yeah, now
Um,
that would have been a good place to end it. I mean, I love Superman, but
yeah. They were never going to not stop publishing Superman. So for them they essentially started over with Superman
hmm
after that. I think it was a way to have your cake and eat it too.
yeah. Okay.
Back to the X-Men.
Yeah. I was thinking about that earlier. um, so Professor X tells the rest of the X-Men that Scott is the new leader.
And Professor X is going to be leaving for a while.
hmm So all the kids go get dressed up in civilian clothes.
And they're going to go have fun.
Yeah, and leaving Scott there to listen to Cerebro beep. That's so sad.
Yeah, he won't go because he has responsibilities and stuff. They have this high-tech device, but doesn't have like a mobile unit that you could just like keep with him, like put in his pocket.
Yeah, and man, is that all he's doing? Is listen to a beep and waiting for it to go off? And sort of, I don't know. Can you read a book or watch TV? Or
I'm sure he
do you have a
can.
bathroom break? And I mean, I don't.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
all we see him do. All right, we have this cool panel. This could have another been a big page, but
We cut to another scene. Magneto is visiting a circus, a carnival.
mm-hmm,
And in the panel, we see Magneto in his thought balloon says, I can walk uh, among these people at a carnival,
mm-hmm,
without drawing attention to me because it's a circus, okay? And there's this creepy clown,
yeah,
too. And it's great. It's a perfect Jack Kirby thing.
yeah. And you got this happy mother and ecstatic kids. You have Cerebro, excuse me,
Magneto.
Magneto walking like he's in the catwalk of the Parisian
Yeah, yeah.
place,
Kirby do
and
great crowds.
yeah, and there's some people, and this grandma who looks displeasing and everything, and her emo grandkid, and that's just. I mean, they put that there for a reason, and
Sure.
I'm not sure what the reason is. I know the clown is
It-
there.
it's
They're at a carnival. That's
When Kirby draws a crowd, he tries to make it a cross-section of humanity, or relatively. And there's people young and old and of different persuasions and feelings. That's where we're going. He populates a crowd, not just with generic folks.
Yeah. Okay.
So
next panel.
The Blob is about to demonstrate his sideshow act.
Yeah. He cannot be pulled by an elephant, and they shoot a cannon at him. Wow.
Yeah, and he's fine. His power is like Antaeus from Greek myth. As long as his feet are planted on the ground, you couldn't move him, or you weren't any stronger than him.
Yeah. Let's see. So Magneto says, "Wow, this is a great evil mutant," and he tries to read his mind, but there's a block there.
Yeah. Here's the thing: Magneto has a little bit of mental power, not like Professor X, who is the most powerful telepath. Magneto has a little bit of that. He picks up on a mental block. And I was thinking it's kind of a weird secondary mutation for him to have.
Yeah.
But I realized why narratively it's important for Magneto to have that. Because him having a little bit of mental power was a way for them to write into Professor X can't read his mind and then know his plan all the time. Because then Magneto has no agency or any teeth as a villain. Oh, we know exactly what he's going to do, where he's going to be.
I thought that's why he wore the helmet.
The helmet is part of it.
Oh, the helmet gives him mental powers.
He has a little bit of mental power as a secondary mutation.
And the helmet helps that mental power?
Yes.
Okay.
And it helps keep Professor X out of his head.
Okay. All right, so
Magneto tries to convince the Blob to come with him, and the Blob isn't having it.
So the owner comes by and says, "What are you doing messing with my Blob?" And and they say, "Who are you?" And Magneto says, "Who am I? I am power." And he puts a lion cage over the Barker, or whatever it is.
Yeah, and of course the Carnival Barker yells,
"Hey, Rube!"
Which is a classic Carney thing, and so then all the Carnies come rushing.
It's a real thing, too.
It is.
And that's pretty cool. And
Rubes are what Carnies call non-Carnies.
Yeah.
Which is weird.
Yeah, you've seen The Simpsons with that. And the Carnies built this country. Well, the Carney part anyway. That's against the Carney Code. Man, that's great.
Wasn't that the one where Homer was in the Hullabalooza sideshow, where he was the guy getting shot with a cannon?
That's a different one.
Oh, okay. I don't know that.
I wonder if they got the idea from the Blob here.
I don't know. No, guy getting shot with a cannonball was a long-standing sideshow thing.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. But, all right.
I wouldn't try to fool you.
Okay.
It'd be too easy.
Hey, the Toad comes out, and no one can touch the Master. He actually kicks butt.
Yeah, he jumps on top of these guys and knocks them around. It's great.
I think this is Toad's finest hour.
It may be.
Yeah.
And, Quicksilver runs around and knocks these guys around.
Yeah.
Mastermind, these guys are coming with, like, sledgehammers and tent stakes, and Mastermind makes them think that they've turned into snakes.
Yeah, and
there's
Scarlet Witch uses flame, I guess.
Well, she has
No, she doesn't. Okay.
She has her hex power that just causes misfortune.
The flame is also
an illusion from Mastermind.
Yeah.
And he's trying to use this as an opportunity to butter up to her, and she's like, "I know your illusions are fake. Ugh."
Yeah. Well, there's nothing wrong with making illusions, but he's just a scumbag.
Oh, God. He's such a creep. Oh.
So, Magneto says, "Oh, join my band." And
we'll play rock and roll.
Yeah.
No, not that kind of band.
Yeah.
His band of evil mutants.
And Blob says no, and he grabs Magneto.
And he puts him in a sleeper hold.
Yeah. And Magneto...
He's like, "How dare you touch the personage of Magneto," which is great.
Yeah. And apparently, I don't know, he uses these pipes that are underneath this cornfield. There's about 20 pipes there.
Yeah, but he used it to, like, unroot the Blob from the ground, and then he goes sailing and bonks his head on something.
Excuse me.
And it knocks loose the mental block that Professor X had put on the Blob previously. Because the Blob, he made him forget he was a mutant, and so that he would just go back to the carnival and not menace mankind. And now he remembers. He's like, "The X-Men, they tricked me. They didn't want me to join Magneto. Well, screw them. I'm going to join Magneto now."
All right. But this makes Cerebro go off.
Yeah.
And Scott says, "Oh, I better..."
Which is weird for a couple of reasons. One, it's not like the Blob stopped existing. the mental
Yeah.
block being
Maybe the
knocked loose.
mental block is what triggers it. The mental block leaving triggers
So Professor X
Cerebro.
could set up Cerebro to know that?
Well, he made the mental block.
Okay.
So Cerebro is kind of part of Professor X, and
Is it?
kind of. I mean,
I mean, I know
he
it can.
makes.
I know it can amplify his power and stuff, but
Yeah.
in looking for other mutants.
Um,
But I don't know. To me, it's kind of
It's
weird.
probably a trigger like that.
Yeah.
So,
So on the side of the machine, there's a little thing that there are names of known evil mutants that light up when it knows that it's been detected.
there's 5.
Can you list them, please?
Magneto, Toad, Mastermind, Quicksilver, Scarlet Witch, Blob, and Unknown.
Wow. It's so funny that only the Blob comes loose because, like, clearly Magneto and the rest of the Brotherhood are
Oh, I didn't
around.
even think of that. Wow.
Yeah, it's very strange. But there's a lot of little plot holes here,
Yeah.
or stuff you just have to just go with.
Okay. So Scott says, "Well, I need to contact the others." He looks in a book and says, "Oh, I'll find Angel through contact Angel through his car radio." Don't you just have it? I just have it written down in front of me. I wouldn't have it in a book. There's only who else has a car radio? I'd have that handy rather than
Right.
having to look into a book.
Well, no, I think it's just a regular radio, but that he can like pull out a microphone from the desk and like transmit
Yeah.
to the radio
I'm not talking about that. He has to look in the book for it.
for the number.
Or I guess the
That is-
frequency.
Yeah, weird.
Yeah, you should.
Yeah.
um,
So the other X-Men are at this beatnik
oh,
bar.
Man,
This is great.
You know?
I love it.
Okay, we have these 2 Maynard G. Krebs wannabes. One's playing a saxophone, which is allowed in a beatnik band, but the other one's playing an oboe. Really? I don't.
Okay.
I don't know. And you got the rest of the beatniks. There's this girl in a purple leotard. I thought she was part of the X-Men or something.
Oh, right.
She looks like a superhero. And then you got this guy reading poetry, and it's a shopping list.
Right.
And this girl saying "Go Cat Go," which is hilarious.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
man.
the rest of the X-Men are just hanging out at a table. The Beast takes off his shoes because his feet hurt, and then the Beatniks see his huge feet. And they're like, "Wow, dig them crazy souls," or whatever.
Yeah. And
So they're crazy about him. They want to start a whole beatnik thing around him.
And Hank hates his scene. He doesn't like the music. He doesn't like the poetry. And he
Yeah.
doesn't like beatniks.
There's
So-
a panel where someone paints a face on the bottom of one of his feet. It's awesome.
It's cool.
Yeah. So, but then they get a message from Cyclops, and so they have to
Hold
leave.
on. But there's the bar girl is bringing over a drink to
Iceman.
Iceman, and he is sweet on her, and she's Zelda. Zelda is one of the characters in The Many Loves of Dobie Gillis, which was a wonderful
Was
TV
that show airing in 1964?
Yes.
Okay. And it's accurate. Okay.
And pretty fun. It's got Gilligan as Manny G. Krebs.
Yes.
The G stands for Walter.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. What is the actual actor's name? What's the name? Bob Denver.
Denver, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
But it's fun. Man, Iceman, he's dressed in orange checkered suit.
Yeah. Can we get a little more volume on that jacket?
Yeah. And I won't turn off my lights and illuminate the room with that. All right, so we get the alert, X-Men alert. So they come back. Oh, here's a picture of Beast's foot drawn with a face. And that's pretty cool looking.
Yeah. That's fun.
And he jumps and he bounces off the walls to get away.
Like a pinball,
Mhm.
you know. And yeah, so they go and they meet up with the Cyclops. Meanwhile, the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants are doing stuff. What are they doing?
Yeah, they went to a factory, and it's not an abandoned factory this time.
Oh, wow.
It's working because it has all kinds of neat stuff in it.
Cool.
We get this scene back with the X-Men, and they're getting into their outfits, and they have trouble with it. And that's kind of, I had never seen this. I think this is a Marvel thing, which is kind of cool. I like
Yeah.
this. You know,
Yeah.
uh,
A couple of things. One thing I want to point out, the Angel has to have somebody unbuckle his wings from his back because he has them wrapped up around him and like hid under his clothes, which
Yeah.
is great. He's got a belt that holds him in place, which is silly.
Yeah.
But
Oh, I don't know. How else would you do
I mean,
it?
no, it's funny though. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm not like that's stupid, but it is silly. And then Iceman freezes up too quickly, and his clothes freeze up and
Yeah.
and shatter.
And that's one of Zelda's favorite shirts. Okay. And that's a kind of a cool thing.
Yeah.
I like these real world problems.
Yeah.
Um,
And he's fronting because he's closeted gay also.
is he?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I mean, that's retroactively, but you can read it differently now. I mean, like, it has been revealed in recent times
Yeah.
that he was gay the whole time.
Okay.
But that's fine. Doesn't bother me any.
Not that there's anything wrong with that. That's fine.
No.
Although I'm sure that he wasn't written at the time as gay.
Well, yeah, but I mean, it works for a guy who, like, you see him date girls and like, consistently, like, it doesn't work out. So it's like a lot of gay guys who, like, stay in the closet. They do that, and
They're married,
and it's complicated,
Yeah.
So it works. So yeah.
Yeah. Oh, cool. So we see some running and Beast and
Marvel Girl.
Marvel Girl getting that's a friendly argument.
Sure.
All right, so they get into a helicopter.
To the X-copter.
Yeah. And the way they know the reason that they know where to go is because Magneto calls them on the radio.
What?
Yeah.
Why?
Oh, because he's setting a trap. But then other people listen to radio. Why isn't Magneto is known as an evil guy to regular Joes, right?
Yeah, I mean, like, he fought the X-Men a bunch already. Like, I'm sure the Avengers and the Fantastic Four know all about him.
Yeah, and the police and the FBI. And
Yeah,
the
like,
army.
why? You're attacking this factory or whatever. Was his whole plan to bring the X-Men there so he could
Yes.
destroy them?
Right.
Okay.
But he can also bring a bunch of other people. But in all these comic books, there's only one group of superheroes and one group of bad guys. Now, this time, because the crossover is rare. But
right. And here's the thing: if the Fantastic Four or the Avengers showed up to beat up Magneto and save the X-Men, they're totally emasculated in their own book,
yeah.
which you want people to buy because you want them to think this team is cool and can do it on their own.
That'd make a great comic book, though.
Oh, I would love that. I would love to read like a Daredevil or something where he totally is made to look lame because Thor came up and beat up Cobra
Actually,
or whatever.
One of the ones of Daredevil I read, he was against Iron Man shows up and he backs down from Iron Man because it's somebody. Well, he's not stupid,
Right.
Iron Man will kick his butt, and he would.
But I mean, like, say it's your story and you're going after a bad guy, and it's your comic book, your series, and then some other superhero shows up and beats them and makes you look totally useless.
Yeah,
like you don't see that.
That'd be a great comic book. I mean, that would be really cool. I mean,
let's write it.
Yeah. Okay. Right.
Cool. But anyway, so the X-Men show up in the X-Men copter, and Magneto tears it apart with his magnetic powers.
Well, he says, the Blob wants to fight him. Says, no, you just distract them. And he's waiting for the helicopter to come down. They're going to attack him. And the helicopter, the X-Men says, let's check out the layout of the land. What's going on here?
Yeah.
Magneto says, I'm out of patience. Zap.
Did he have any?
Yeah, I know. So, that was a good plan. So they're saved from the fall. And then they attack the Blob, and the Blob kicks butt.
Yeah. The Angel hits him in the face with a piece of the wreckage. Doesn't do anything.
Yeah.
The Blob grabs his wings and stuff.
Yeah, and the Beast smacks him with his big old feet.
Yeah, it hits him right in the solar plexus with the feetsies.
And nothing happens.
Yeah. What, you want to talk about this house ad for the subscription ad? Go ahead.
Oh, yeah. We got Dr. Doom advertising comic books.
Subscribe to Marvel Comics.
Yeah. And it's just really great. I don't know. It just amuses me having the villain, hey, buy these comic books.
Yeah.
And
Well, these ads are usually pretty humorous.
yeah.
Again, it's 1980
Mm-hmm.
that this ad is being put out, so still pretty fun.
Okay, so choose your favorite 4 titles and only pay for 3, and he's triumphant. And
Yeah, and of course he's looking at the Fantastic Four on a view screen.
yeah,
Somebody had fun dreaming up this idea.
yeah, Reed is. I'd be a fool to argue with that logic, but then again, it may be a trap. And thing is, where do we sign up?
Yeah.
I love this stuff. It's
Yeah.
yeah.
And so there's about 24 series of Marvel comics that you have to choose from to subscribe to at this time.
Pretty good stuff. So,
Yep.
all right,
Enjoyable. Back to our story.
yeah, Marvel Girl's having trouble too. Everyone's
She uses her telekinetic power to try and lift the blob up,
Mhm.
and the Earth goes with him. Like she can't move him from the Earth.
Yeah. All right, so Magneto's big plan was to get the X-Men there and then throw, with his magnetic powers, torpedoes at them, which is
Yeah, it was a
kinda
munitions
stupid.
factory. That's right.
Yeah. Torpedoes are unmanned submarines that have a bomb in them and a big engine.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no reason to throw a torpedo at somebody. You can just throw a bomb.
Right, but I mean, a torpedo, don't you need to be in water to go around? Not when you have the magnetic supervillainous powers of Magneto to make them fly through the air.
Yeah, but
Isn't that kind of exciting and neat?
it is, and that's. I mean, I'm just saying it's logically incorrect, but it is comic book cool. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
So he throws them at the X-Men, and the Iceman is instructed by Cyclops to create a tube with a curve on it. This is such a Looney Tunes kind of thing.
Yeah.
But he shoots one through a tube, and so it goes in another direction. And then Iceman puts kind of like ice wheels around them,
Or
so they'll
donuts.
or donuts, so they'll fall to the ground and roll away harmlessly,
Mm-hmm.
which is fun.
And so he an Iceman is getting cocky, and the 2 torpedoes about to hit him. So
Cyclops uses his eye beams to make the ground beneath Iceman collapse, and so he falls into a hole safely.
yeah, the Blob is fighting Hank and is kicking his butt.
Yeah.
And Hank throws dirt in his face. I was kind of shocked because that is always a villain thing to do, is throw sand. And
Right.
so-
It's very underhanded, you're right. But then again, it's not very heroic for a bunch of people to team up against, pile up on one guy.
yeah.
And we see that a lot in superhero comics.
yeah.
You know, so it's a weird thing.
Yeah. I was kind of shocked at it.
Yeah.
Yes,
But sometimes, if in the face of, do I fight honorably and get defeated by this supervillain, or do I fight dirty and save the day?
yeah. Right.
Sometimes you
Yeah.
got to break a few eggs, yo.
But yeah, but in a lot of stuff they would never have done it. They would
Right.
they would done something else. I mean, on the King of the Hill, Dale Dribble has pocket sand.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
Man, that's some good stuff.
Yeah.
All right, so the mud works.
Yeah.
So and then
It's so the blob takes his feet off the ground and is able to get knocked over.
well, because he doesn't see the punch coming. That
Right.
is why the beast can knock him a new one.
Right.
So the Blob is fighting everybody, and then
Oh yeah,
Okay,
and then the X-Men fight Quicksilver and the Scarlet Witch. You know, the rest of the evil mutants.
that's pretty cool.
Iceman puts the blob in a block of ice,
That's kind of cool.
and then he fatsoes his way out of it.
yeah, yeah, exactly.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. And I love the baroom and the
Of the ice breaking open.
Yeah. So so the Blob is mad. So he's going after the X-Men, and then Magneto sends about 3 torpedoes towards the group.
Because all the X-Men are converged against him. And the blob gets hit, and he realizes, wait, that jerk didn't give a crap about me.
Mm-hmm.
I was just a pawn. He was just using me. Screw this. I'm going back to the circus.
Yeah. So then Magneto says, "Oh, I failed," and it was kind of stupid. He could have
like-
waited a little bit.
Like, you had enough power. Why didn't, what? So they all get back into the Magneto mobile and drive
Why are
away.
they running? I mean, can't they fight some more? And it's over with. I don't think the Blob would even fought with them, but
Yeah, it's weird. It's weird.
Yeah.
Hey, we have a Twinkie alert.
Yes.
This is a great one. Iron Man versus the bank robbers. It's a Hostess fruit pie ad.
Yep. The bank robbers are pretty well dressed. They got machine guns.
They have great costumes, and they're holding a bunch of people hostage in a bank. And the negotiators are outside. They're going to see about meeting the demands. They want them to send in food. Iron Man says, "Send in these Hostess fruit pies, and I'll listen in on their conversation."
With my cyber helmet receiver.
Yeah, so they're real excited to get the fruit pies. The bad guys are. And as they're eating them, Iron Man busts through the wall and kicks the crap out of them.
Usually there's not that much
actual fighting.
But
Iron Man punches a guy right in the face, busts a wall. Yeah. It's awesome.
Yeah, and there's two guys flying. So,
it's great.
I wonder, if Kirby ever did one of these, and he may have.
The answer is no.
It looks very Kirby-esque. I've seen it.
Here, I know what you're thinking, but the Thor ones, they're drawn by either John or Sal Buscema.
Okay.
Which they would emulate some Kirby aspects, but Kirby never did any of the Hostess fruit pie ads. I guarantee it.
Man, if he had, I'd put it on my wall.
I actually found somewhere somebody has archived all of them. I'll send you the link. And there are hundreds of them.
Yeah.
Hundreds.
There's tons of different, there's Richie Rich ones. And,
there's a bunch of Casper and Archie ones. A ton. Mm-hmm. Typically we see the Marvel and DC superhero ones, but yeah.
Wonder why.
Right? So then the X-Men talk to the Blob.
Yeah, and the Blob says, "Well, I'm gonna go back to the carnival and never be evil again." So, and that's
which is a lie, but it'll work for now.
As I was wondering that.
Yeah,
I didn't look at. Yeah, and here the hero says, "Oh, we lost our helicopter. We had no way to get back." So you don't have a plan B,
right?
Yeah, Scott, you're failing.
Well, it's kind of fun for them to win the day, but then they got to hitchhike home.
Yeah,
pretty neat.
Oh, I enjoy it, but I would big fail on Scott's part.
Right, pretty fun issue, right?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
And Silver Age stuff is usually cool.
Oh yeah, no, I love it. It's probably my favorite.
Mm-hmm.
We're gonna take a quick promotional break, and we'll be back with more X-Men. Stick around.
The end of the world is approaching. Soon the planet will be engulfed in a nuclear Armageddon, and the only people that can prevent this from happening are considered to be the greatest villains of all time. The only thing standing in their way is the Justice League. In 2005...
wait a second. Are we sure about that date this time?
Yeah, it's 2005. We're sure this time.
Let's just be perfectly clear. I hate all of you so much.
Okay, good. Got that. All right.
In 2005, DC Comics began publishing a 12-issue bi-monthly comic called Justice. Written by Jim Kruger with art by Alex Ross and Doug Braithwaite, this series was essentially a Super Friends for adults. And now another group of Super Friends has come together to discuss all 12 issues in a podcasting crossover called J.L. May 2017. The excitement begins on the April 30th episode of the Fire and Water podcast and continues into Supermates, the Idlehead of Diabolou podcast, Views from the Long Box, the Pulp to Pixel podcast, the Lantern Cast, the Shazam Cast, Comic Reflections, the Silver and Gold podcast, the Power of Fishnets, Waiting for Doom, and Justice's First Dawn. J.L. May 2017. Last year, they covered the beginning of the Justice League. This year, they discuss and review the League's toughest battle. The coverage begins on April 30th on the Fire and Water podcast, located at fireandwaterpodcast.com.
I'm Mike Gillis.
And I'm Casey Dorn, and we want to ask you an important question.
Are you sick and tired of other panel discussion shows wasting your time droning on and on about foreign policy, economics, and human rights?
Or do you want to hear conversations about things that actually matter?
We host a podcast called Radio versus the Martians. Every month, we gather a panel of our nation's finest minds and plunge a rusty prison shank into the heart of tough questions that have an impact on the lives of real people like you.
Like, are drivers required to pull over for the Ghostbusters?
Is the United Federation of Planets actually an oppressive dictatorship run by guidance counselors?
Is Arnold Schwarzenegger secretly a genius?
And are we being mean when we laugh at movies that are so bad they're good?
So write your congressman and let them know that Radio vs. the Martians is available on iTunes, Stitcher, and on radioversusthemartians.com.
And we're back. Now, Jeff, on to Amazing Adventures number 14, cover dated January of 1981, cover art by Jack Kirby and Chick Stone. This is the last issue in this reprint series.
Oh.
Well, I mean, they ran it for 14 issues.
Yeah.
And it was really weird. The first 12 issues, they reprinted the first 6 issues of the X-Men, but split up the issues over, or the story over 2 issues, and then filled the back half of the comic with reprints of other backup stories that had been in old issues of the X-Men. It was kind of a way for them to milk it, but I'm not against it. I mean, if you had all the issues, like, okay, I'll just read the first 8 issues of the X-Men, plus these fun other features. But yeah, kind of neat. And it was interesting. They did this short run of reprints of the original X-Men from the 60s. 1980, when the X-Men were really starting to explode in popularity. At least in the world of comics fans. So I think that's pretty neat.
Did well in movies, too.
Yeah, I mean, that's a long ways before that. I mean, it wouldn't be till 1988 they even got a pilot or anything.
It was a TV show.
They did a cartoon, a pilot in 1988 that didn't get picked up to a series, but then in 93 they did get a series that ran for, I want to say, 5 or more seasons.
Yeah.
But yes, on to this issue. Great cover by Jack Kirby.
Yeah. The Uncanny Thread of Unis, the Untouchable.
Eunice.
Okay.
Eunice.
Okay. It doesn't happen. So, all right. We're going to have to lay out the wisecracks. It's an obvious wordplay there we can do. And we're going to be above that. But the guy, I bet that guy's an asshole, though.
I think you're right. Yeah, there's a great cover with the X-Men, flying in all directions, and Eunice standing there, I guess, repelling them with his power.
Yeah.
We'll learn more about that in today's story.
Yeah.
So yes, the story is called The Uncanny Threat of Eunice the Untouchable. It's a reprint from the X-Men number 8 from November of 1964, written by Stan Lee, penciled by Jack Kirby, and inked by Chick Stone.
Yeah, you see the X-Men practicing. That is one thing the X-Men and Marvel does pretty good. They show them training.
Well, and so many X-Men, splash pages will be them training in the Danger Room or playing baseball. Those are classic X-Men openers.
Yeah.
And as a thing for new readers, that's very safe and welcoming. They're not opening it up to the middle of some dramatic thing like from the previous issue.
Yeah.
It's very welcoming.
And it's also important that, not even Superman knows how to fight crime. You just woke up one morning and could fight crime. You have to train. And
Sure.
And superheroes, training is important.
Yeah, well, I mean, Superman essentially had his powers from always.
But he had to train how to use them.
Right. But that's something else. We'll talk about that on another episode. So the X-Men are fighting. The Angel's flying around and gets caught in a net, but it looks like he flies into a giant condom.
Yeah. I didn't notice that, but yes.
Yeah.
Iceman's laughing at him, and then they...
Cyclops gives him a stern talking to.
Yeah. I didn't know this, but Iceman can turn transparent.
He says almost transparent.
Yeah.
Not quite, but he when he ices up more than just the snow-covered look, he does have the appearance of being translucent, but isn't actually.
Yeah.
Marvel Girl is threading yarn through a punch card.
But she dropped a stitch.
Oh, dang.
God.
However, that kind of precision work, okay, but like we're sticking to very traditional gender roles, I'm afraid, in
Yeah.
1964.
Although that'd be useful, though. I can see that being very specific
Like
and
diffusing a bomb or something.
hmm
But here it's like they're putting the girl into doing something very domestic.
hmm
Um,
yeah.
and the Beast is walking on a high wire.
Yeah, and he messes up, and everyone messes up. But they're complaining about how their training so hard. But hey, um, yeah. So everyone gets a break except Scott again.
And the Beast kind of has a wild hair and decides to quit.
No, oh, wait a minute. He sees a kid and stuck on a building, and he
Oh, I'm
goes
sorry, I forgot
to
about this part.
he goes to save them, and he brings them down and covering his face fairly cleverly. I mean, just keeps his face away from people
Yeah.
so they can see him. And the crowd hates him because he's a mutant, which it's kind of overdone. I know they're trying to do what they're trying to do, but
Yeah. Well, the crowd react like, "Oh, he saved that kid," but maybe it's just to throw us off. I've heard of mutants,
Yeah,
and they're
mhm.
dangerous.
yeah, yeah. But it's your that you're presupposed to hate somebody. You're gonna hate them whether or not they bring your ice cream or whatever.
Right.
Or, Um, but so this makes Beast quit.
Hmm.
And so he quits, and so Scott says, "What do I do?" So I'll call Professor X with his Cerebro. And Professor X is in a tunnel underneath the Balkan Mountains, and he's trying to find Inferno.
Lucifer.
Lucifer, excuse me.
Not the character from literature and biblical myth, the alien turnip head who was the vanguard of an invading army.
Okay.
Just for clarification.
Yeah. For a guy who cannot walk, he gets around in caves pretty good.
Yeah.
He's got a motorized,
Yeah.
cool wheelchair.
I think it's in X-Men number 9 where we get more of that story. And the X-Men meet the Avengers for the first time.
Yeah.
I've read that story. That's fun. So, anyway.
So Beast leaves, and he becomes a professional wrestler. And I think that in the mid-century, 20th century, wrestling wasn't as low class as it is today. I saw one of the Thin Man movies, and the characters go see professional wrestling, and they had a good time, and they didn't look down on it.
Yeah.
So, but the lowbrowness would come shortly after this was made.
Well, and the thing is, like in the 1980s was probably in a way, the halcyon days, the huge popularity of wrestling exploded in the 1980s. And
Rock and Roll Connection and all that stuff.
Oh, sure. And it was inescapable. It was one of those pop cultural phenomenons that was everywhere
And it
at
was
that
fun.
time. Yeah. And I think, but after that time, it is kind of, during and after that time, it's like, yeah, this is trash.
Yeah. Well, I think I knew it was trash, but it was fun trash.
Yeah.
Now it's just...
Yeah, but post the 1980s, I think it just became trash.
Yeah, I can't tell the good guys from the bad guys. They act the same.
Yeah.
And that's kind of, I don't know.
You knew Roddy Piper was a heel, and, Hulk Hogan was the face, and he was a good guy.
Yeah.
But...
Until he turned and all. So.
Well, yeah, and but you also knew that it was in good fun, too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I think later you just had guys who were just plain nasty.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And yeah. So anyway.
Yeah. So the Beast comes out, and he's in a cage. He's being pulled by bearers. There's a Sikh guard with a gun.
Right. Oh, a guy in a turban.
Yeah. Yeah. He's got a band. He's got this...
There's a girl in this like Jane from Tarzan kind of pith helmeted outfit, which is great. What a great showy kind of way
I would go see this.
Yeah, this is cool. How they're bringing him out to go out to wrestle Eunice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and he comes out and takes off his robe. Oh, the girl takes off his robe for him. And there's Eunice. And so he jumps him, and he repelled backwards. And he cannot do anything against him.
Yeah. Now, the Beast is very agile and, of course, very strong. And so he to have him in a wrestling ring is terrific. And it makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, did we mention that he decided to heck with this? I'm going to go become a wrestler.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
I don't know if he did not, but yeah. But Unis would be a bad. I mean, people. I mean, that'd be a bad thing for a wrestler. You know, it can't be touched. This is. Oh, that's kind of gets boring. People jump out and
Well,
bounce
right.
off.
You want it. It's a contact, quote unquote, sport. You want to see stuff, and if he just stands there and repels everybody, that's not a very good show.
Yeah.
But for a comic book,
Yeah,
we can go with it.
Yeah. And then BC's Mastermind.
Who's in the crowd? He's scouting for evil mutants,
Yeah.
and he sees Eunice after the match.
Yeah. Well, they've already talked.
Yeah.
So I says, well, can I join Magneto's band now? And says, well, gotta make sure.
Maybe if you were able to
Prove yourself.
by capture or beat the X-Men or even one of them, then Magneto would want you in the group.
Yeah.
So
So he's kind of ticked off, Uso says, and he's walking down the street, and he walks into a bank robbery. I hate when that happens.
yeah, and so he takes the money from the bank robbers,
Yeah.
and they can't hurt him because bullets will fly. They won't even touch him.
Yeah. So
What a great power! Nobody can touch Eunice unless he wants them to.
yeah, there's got to be something you can do against them, though. Oh,
Yeah.
and we find out.
Yeah. So the X-Men show up.
And they get their butts handed to them.
Yeah.
And
Or repelled to them.
yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And nothing works. It's pretty cool.
And his personality is pretty repellent, actually. So too.
He's kind of a jerk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's cool to see Cyclops' eye beams bounce right off of him and not connect. Iceman puts a shield around the stuff and it just gets pushed away.
Yeah. And and Una says, "Oh, well, it's a good thing I have a distinctive costume." So
Yeah. He's got this red jumpsuit with a cool kind of symbol emblazoned on the trunks. And it's simple, but I like it. His costume is cool.
yeah, it is.
I had this issue when I was much younger, and I loved this story. I thought Eunice was a great villain. Really fun.
Pretty cool. He grabs Angel, and Angel, I mean, he's beating Angel up, and so Angel just flies off and puts him on a skyscraper, which is a great idea.
Yeah, well, and here's the thing: if Eunice is touching you, he can't be repelling you, and because if he repels himself away from the Angel, he'll fall. I mean, he could make himself repel against the ground, but he might get hurt.
Yeah. All right, so the X-Men leave him up there and go home. So, oh, we're done.
Yeah.
I'd have somebody to keep an eye on him. But...
Right. So the Beast has returned to the fold, and he creates a device to amplify Eunice's power. And the X-Men don't like that at all.
I agree with them. That idea doesn't make sense to me, but
So
let's read on.
Even Cyclops tries to shoot the machine as Beast gets away. He's like, look, you'll understand later, okay?
Yeah.
And so Eunice is on the phone with Magneto, or excuse me, with Mastermind, right?
Yeah.
And the Beast comes upon him. I guess he knows right where to find him. Oh, near the wrestling area or whatever. Or maybe he knows because they're in the wrestling circuit.
Right.
So, but anyway, he uses the ray on him, and it makes him more powerful. Eunice is like, well, now I'll beat the X-Men real good.
Yeah.
Even more. So he does, but then he comes to realize he can't control his power anymore. He can't have a cigarette or eat anything or touch anything.
Yeah.
Before he could choose, and now he cannot.
Yeah, he goes to this restaurant and the steaks fly off the plates.
Yeah, and so the X-Men come upon him, and he's like, "Look, what am I going to do?" And they're like, "Look, if you promise to not to use your power for evil, I can reverse the ray." And he says, "Okay, I'll never do anything like that again." And so they do, and then he stops being bad, I guess.
Yeah. Oh, we got a cool pinup.
Yeah, and this is actually the art was used for the cover of an issue of an X-Men, one that we talked about on the show once.
Oh.
It was like Iceman fights alone or whatever against Magneto. And that's pretty much what's happening in this picture.
I love that when you get the disembodied heads of the X-Men. They're looking, what's going on, and they're concerned. And
Yeah.
I love that. But Magneto looks great.
Yeah, that is really fun. And we have a Twinkie alert. It's another Hostess Fruit Pie ad. Captain America in Fury Unleashed.
Yeah, and
Captain America is going to rescue Nick Fury from some bad guys.
he looks very much like Lex Luthor, but in a green jumpsuit.
Right.
But he's in a leotard.
This guy, he's just a big goon. He's the henchman of the Trapster.
Mhm.
Now, a couple of things about this ad. One, the Trapster is Paste Pot Pete under a different name.
Oh, man, that's right. Uh-huh.
Yeah. And two, the Trapster was never like, here's me with my supervillainous plot and I have henchmen. He was the hench person or just guy alone, but he was the hench person of the Wizard in the Frightful Four.
Yeah, it's great. But so Cap uses his shield and filled with Twink, and let's see, fruit pies, and that
distracts the goon enough from
so
the rescue Nick Fury.
They run away like Frenchmen. I mean, yeah.
And the Trapster is really mad. He didn't even get any fruit pies.
I know, and of course the heroes in the last Iron Man, of course, we know why Iron Man can't eat Twinkies, because he's got his Iron Man
helmet on.
Yeah.
There's another pinup of the Angel flying around.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Dodging some fire, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And cool. That was great.
Yeah, pretty fun issue. Do you have any other stuff?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, cool. Comic Reflections is recorded in Portland, Oregon, and produced by Sean Roof. Until next time.
We'll see you in the funny pages.
Hey, I'm Jen.
And I'm Sean. We're here to tell you about our podcast, Worst Collection Ever.
And this is the show where we tell you about the worst comic book collection in existence. And it just happens to belong to us.
We have some of the worst comics from the 70s, 80s, and 90s. They're bad. They're not worth anything.
No good.
Why do we own them? Bad. I own a number of issues of Terror Inc. and Guy Gardner.
Basically, we go around to local comic book stores and we buy everything we can out of dollar boxes.
We tell you about the weird stuff in them. We tell you about stuff that's related to them. We go into tangents. And we're very uninformed, so...
Oh my God, totally. But totally check out our podcast because you'll hear us just talk and joke about Marvel books and DC books from God only knows when.
That's right. It's our show, Worst Collection Ever, every Tuesday on iTunes, Stitcher, anywhere you get your podcasts. Download, rate, subscribe, tell a friend.
It'll be good and terrible, but good.
Trekker Talk, a fan podcast devoted to the adventures of 23rd century bounty hunter Mercy St. Clair from the pages of Trekker Comics by creator, writer, and artist Ron Randall. I'm Darren.
And I'm Ruth. We'll be discussing the stories, characters, and art in this excellent retro sci-fi adventure series, as well as having side conversations about other areas of fandom.
We hope you'll join us as we travel from the dangerous back streets of New Guelph to the depths of outer space and everywhere in between.
Trekker Talk is available at podbean.com and on iTunes and Stitcher.
Find us at trekkertalk.com.